30-10, when you shoot 40% from the three-point line. How do you try to harness that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough guy to guard. You know, I think a great example is just in a simple pick and roll, what do you do? I mean, usually with guys that shoot 40%, you're likely to switch or at least mix in switches, but obviously with his size, it becomes a lot more difficult because he can bury you in the post. He's a good post scorer, and then, you know, a good offensive rebounder, you know, especially against guys that are smaller. So he's a handful. He's a good player.
Where is your defense right now compared to where you think it has the potential to be?
You know, as far as how we've played, I think in the last 3 weeks, we've actually been a little bit better. We were better on Wednesday than the score indicated after I watched it. You know, I thought that there were certainly a few missed contests. There were a couple of moments in transition that I thought were poor, but I thought that it was pretty good. And I thought Detroit made great plays. And I think that sometimes, looking at it objectively with the sound off, it was pretty obvious that they played a hell of a game, and we didn't play quite as well. But you know, I felt pretty good looking back on it. I think there are things, again, we're focused on the things we can control, and that's, we got to shore up the rebounding, and then there's little individual correctable things.
Do you have your rotation pretty much understood with people coming back?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I mean, there's going to be times where we play 11 guys, especially because Tyler's ability to give us matchups against certain guys, and you know, like tonight, obviously they play a big lineup, but you know, those guys have all played good minutes for us here recently, and you know, obviously we've got a core group of probably 8 that are playing the majority of the minutes.
Coach, you talked games like this. You talked before about how you don't mind taking a lot of three-point shots, as long as they're the right shot. You guys have been taking a ton lately. The 42 the other night, were a lot of those the right shot, or how do you kind of determine?
Yeah, they are. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we want layups, and then if we don't get layups, we want the floor to be shrunk. So if the defense shrinks in and you're able to touch the paint and kick it out, you know, in 2 of our last 3 games, maybe 3 of our last 4 games, 2/3 of our possessions, we've touched the paint or shrunk the defense with a roll, and that's kind of our objective. Hey, we're not a team that gets to the foul line a lot. We're not a team that rebounds at a high rate, and we haven't scored it in transition. So, you know, to be able to be sitting where we are offensively, I think a big reason is because we space the floor.
Is your motion offense the way you want it to be?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, offense can come and go. Your hitting shots can come and go, but you know, as far as like quality of shots and where we are now versus where we've been in the last couple of years and moving forward, I feel really good about it.
Offensively, when you looked at the film with Allen, those 5 field goals, is there a way that you can kind of start a game to get him a little more involved, or is that something that
we threw it in the post, I think 4 or 5 times in the first 6 minutes, 7 minutes. You know, I think that, and they doubled it, and he made the right play.
Yeah.
So there's always a right play to be made. It doesn't mean that he's always going to get a shot. I think 5 is too little. I don't think there's any question about that. But sometimes you just got to find other ways. And, you know, maybe that means that we run a different kind of action other than a post-up or other than a pick and roll to get him looks. But, you know, we took some tough shots the other night at times. But, you know, when you give up 121, that's the deal. And I think that we scored at a pretty good rate. And I'm not as concerned right now about that as I am about making sure we shore up those individual correctable things, and then again try to get better on the defensive glass.
How was Alvin able to do that this team early on, even despite missing the
Yeah, I don't know that we fully know from a basketball standpoint, other than we think he's, and it's been pretty obvious in the first few times he's been on the court with us, that he's been a great fit for us, how we play. But more so who he is. You know, I think that having a guy that's been there, done that, that is this well respected, that is everything that was advertised, is, you know, it's a great thing for an otherwise young team.